Imagine just digging in the dirt and pulling out a giant block of black limestone that basically acts as the ultimate historical receipt for a violent 3,000-year-old regime change. Well, today, we're breaking down the Black Obelisk of Shalmaneser III. It's not just some cool rock. It's literally a carved-in-stone document bridging the gap between ancient stories and cold, hard evidence. You know, when you're trying to piece together history from millennia ago, finding something this perfectly preserved is pretty rare. It essentially hands us a VIP pass right into the ruthless, cutthroat politics of the ancient world.
Where it really makes this artifact stand out is how perfectly it lines up with this chaotic 12-year window of ancient assassinations, power grabs, and honestly, total geopolitical collapse. We're essentially looking at a mid-9th century BC cold case. It's the exact moment where Neo-Assyrian imperial records crash right into the desperate survival strategy of an isolated kingdom. You've got these massive empires expanding, smaller states just completely panicking, and one guy caught right in the middle, doing whatever it takes to hold on to his new throne. To really grasp how crazy this timeline is, we have to start in 853 BC. We're looking at exactly a 12-year gap between the absolute height of an empire and its total submission. So at this point, the Kingdom of Israel, run by the seriously wealthy Omri dynasty, was at its absolute peak. They had locked down strong alliances with Judah to the south and the Phoenicians over on Tyre. It was a literal golden age of trade, military power, and regional stability. But by 841 BC, just a dozen years later, that entire network had completely fractured into pieces. The Assyrian records give us this wild contrast between those two dates. In 853 BC, at the Battle of Karkar, Israel's King Ahab was a total powerhouse. He rolled up with a massive coalition force. We're talking 2,000 chariots and 10,000 infantry just to fight off Assyria. To field an army like that, you need serious, entrenched wealth. But fast forward a mere 12 years to 841 BC, and Israel is entirely alone. Their new king is literally on his hands and knees surrendering. So how do you lose that much leverage, that much military capability in barely a decade?
Well, the catalyst for all this chaos was the Neo-Assyrian Empire, led by King Shalmaneser III. Assyria was just an aggressive, expansionist war machine. Shalmaneser was systematically pushing west, trying to lock down lucrative trade routes on the Mediterranean and squeeze heavy tribute out of neighboring states to fund his empire. I mean, he was building massive palaces, funding huge armies, and that cash had to come from somewhere, right? The rule of the day was pretty simple. You either paid up or you got crushed. While Assyria was knocking at the door, Israel was actually collapsing from the inside. An Israelite military commander named Jehu launched this incredibly rapid, highly violent coup. He rode his chariot straight to the royal estate and assassinated King Jehu. And he didn't stop there. He mortally wounded the visiting king of Judah, executed the Tyrian queen mother Jezebel, and systematically wiped out the 70 remaining heirs of the royal family. In one swoop, Jehu got the throne, but he totally destroyed his nation's three-way alliance. Now here's where it gets darkly ironic. Even though Jehu just murdered the entire Omri family line, the Assyrian records on the obelisk still identify him as the son of Omri. Why? Well, because to the Assyrians, Bit Cumri, or the House of Omri, was just the official name on the map for that territory. They didn't care about internal politics or who was actually related to who. They were bureaucrats managing a massive empire. If you ruled Samaria, you were the son of Omri on their paperwork. End of story.
So by the time we hit 841 BC, Jehu is king, but he has zero allies left because, well, he just assassinated all their leaders. On top of that, the throne in neighboring Damascus was just taken over by a hostile new king named Hazael. So Jehu is completely boxed in. He's got an enemy to the northeast, no friends in the south or west, and he is absolutely desperate for a heavy-hitting protector to keep his new kingdom from falling apart before his reign even really gets off the ground. When Shalmaneser III marched his army back to the Mediterranean coast, Jehu saw his one and only way out. Shalmaneser set up camp at a coastal point called Bali Rasi, which is probably right around modern-day Mount Carmel. Jehu went out to meet him there and literally fell to his hands and knees, pressing his face into the dirt in a deep pose of submission. The ancients called it proskynesis. He essentially handed over his kingdom's wealth just to buy off the Assyrian war machine. It was a total capitulation, purely to save his own skin. And that brings us to the ultimate receipt. Carved right into the second register of the Black Obelisk is an Akkadian translation that flat out reads, "The tribute of Jehu, son of Omri." Right beneath that cuneiform caption is a relief carving of Jehu on the ground before the Assyrian king. Now, this is a massive deal for historians. It's the only known contemporary visual portrait of an Israelite or Judean king in all of ancient Near Eastern art. It freezes that exact moment of surrender in stone, forever. The Assyrians didn't just log his name either. They kept a meticulous, itemized receipt of the payout. The text actually lists the specific tribute items Jehu's porters are carrying in the carving. We're talking silver, gold, a specific golden bowl called a saplu, golden vases, tumblers, tin, and even a royal staff. It shows us exactly what it cost Jehu to buy Assyrian protection. He basically emptied out whatever was left in the treasury, handing over the absolute best of his kingdom's wealth just to survive the year. Let's jump forward a bit to 825 BC, near the end of Shalmaneser's reign. His commander-in-chief commissions this 6.5-foot black limestone monument. See, Assyria was dealing with an internal civil war at the time, so they desperately needed some permanent imperial propaganda. Setting up a monument that shows 5 different regions, including Jehu, bringing massive wealth to the king, was a highly calculated way to remind everybody of the empire's absolute dominance. It was essentially a huge physical billboard saying, hey, don't forget who's in charge. That monument absolutely did its job. And then it just sat buried in the dirt of northern Iraq for nearly 3 millennia. Entire civilizations rose and fell while it was completely hidden. It wasn't until 1846 that a British archaeologist named Austin Henry Layard dug it up. His site superintendent actually spotted the monument lying on its side, 10 feet underground in a trench right in the central courtyard of the ancient capital of Nimrud. Getting this massive stone block back to civilization was a mid-19th century logistical nightmare. I mean, think about it. Layard's laborers had to upright this nearly 7-foot stone using nothing but ropes. They loaded it onto ox carts, dragged it to the Tigris River, and floated it downstream to Baghdad on traditional rafts called kileks, all while under armed escort just to fend off trouble along the way. After surviving low water levels and severe storms at sea, it finally made it to England 2 years later in 1848. Now, you might be wondering, how do we know the dates of these events so accurately? It actually all comes down to astronomy. Assyrian records logged a total solar eclipse known as the Bur-Sagaliya eclipse. Modern astronomers can pinpoint that exact event to June 15th, 763 BC. So by using those ancient records and counting backward from that absolute anchor point, historians were able to lock in that exact 12-year gap between Ahab's coalition and Jehu's tribute directly to our modern calendar. Looking at all this, it really messes with how you think about history, doesn't it? Jehu led this brutal, bloody coup to take absolute power of his nation. Yet today, the only reason we even have a physical portrait of him is because the empire that forced him into submission carved it into a rock to brag about their own dominance. When the only surviving record of your reign is foreign propaganda documenting your lowest moment of surrender, you really have to ask yourself who is actually writing the history books.
What the Fact? Follow for more.